Anthony Dilapi had been part of a powerful Bronx crew under the Lucchese family. He'd been a big earner in the New York garment district. He also ran a small teamsters local in the Bronx, but he was big on making money. The only serious rap he did 5 years in 1980 on a labor racketeering thing. When he got back to New York, the power structure of the Lucchese family had changed completely. It was run by two definitely insane, very murderous guys, Vic Amuso and a guy named Gaspipe Casso. I read, by the way, he wasn't called Gaspipe because he used a gas pipe on somebody's head. A gas pipe is enormous, but rather his father worked for the gas company. Who knows? Still, I'd like a name like that, Gaspipe Bob or whatever. They were both paranoid over the Bronx crew. They thought they were going to rebel against him. They didn't know what was going. Maybe they were ratting him out to the cops so they could take over that way. As for DiPali, they didn't like him. They didn't trust him. They called him in for a meeting, but Dilapi feared for his life, and he just didn't show up. I don't blame him. So instead, he went underground. He relocated to L.A., where his daughter lived and his grandson, and several members of his distant family, cousins, and so forth. So what Casso did was he called two highly decorated but extremely crooked cops, New York City police detectives he had on his payroll. Stephen Carapapa and Louis Ippolito, New York City detectives. They were assassins, by the way, for Gaspipe. So Carapaka calls Dilapia's parole officer. He says, we need this guy's address. He's part of an investigation. Parole officer gives him an address in California. Then Amuso and Casso call in this guy, little Al Diarco, who had been with a long time. He was a capo at that point. He would later become temporarily an acting boss. They call him to the Walnut Bar, and they give him an address. It's written in code. They have to explain the code to him. He didn't understand it. He had to call later and explain it again. Anyway, so they told him, once they got that figured out, they want him to run this operation to kill Dilapi, and they want his son, Joe, to go out to California and do the actual murder. So the next day, Diarco drives his son to the airport, tells him a gun's going to be brought in for him from a contact they had in Las Vegas, and he gives him the address. But he gets out there, it's the wrong address. It wasn't Dilapi's home. It was a used car lot where he worked that was owned by several of his family members and who also lived on the street. They waited. He didn't show up. Diarco got creative. He got a bicycle dressed as a street guy and drove around the street all day hoping to see. Nothing worked out. So they took 3 trips out there to find Dilapia. Joe Diarco was a guest, according to the FBI, of Joe Abbonati, who was said to be the mafia's most powerful man in porn out there. He is, according to who you talk to, either a made member of the Lucchese crime family or an associate. I don't think there's any evidence of either one, but that's common knowledge out there, apparently. So Al Diarco told the FBI that the Kansas City boss, Anthony Rip Civella, said that 2 of his sons were working with Abbonati in the porn business out there. Anyway, on the last trip out west, the Lucchese's got a lead that Dilapi was working at a gay bar. So they stalked out the bar, and they're waiting, and sure enough, Dilapi shows up for work. They followed him home. On February 4, 1990, I don't know. It depends on who you talk. We can't say the killer was Diarco, Joe Diarco. Who knows? But anyway, a mass killer, we'll put it that way, was waiting in the underground parking garage of Dilapapo's building on Sunset Boulevard. Dilapia enters the building carrying 2 bags over his shoulders. His laundry is going to the dry cleaners. He sees the shooter. He drops the bag. He yells out, "Oh my God," and he starts to run. He didn't get farther. He was cut down. He got 5 rounds in the face and 4 into his body. No one's ever been charged in the murder. When little Al Diarco flipped, he made a deal for his